1994 Isuzu Rodeo. Issue with this one is it doesn't run very good. I think it's running lean, I was told. So if I go in here and start it, it's surging really good there. You can see the oil pressure surging with the RPMs. And then you can hear it kind of surging there. So yeah, I don't know if it's running lean or what's going on. No engine light on when it's running, but it will kind of stable out as it runs longer, I was told. We'll see what happens here. But what I'm going to do next is you can check for codes on these. So there's a 3-pin connector here. You take the pin 1 and 3 and you jump them together. Just short them together, and that'll flash your engine light. And then this 2-pin, I believe it's for your transmission codes. Because if you look, there's 2 computers up there, if you can see. There's one here which I believe is the engine, and then there's another one right there, which is the transmission one, I believe. So let's short these together real quick. Or they're shorted together. You can use a paper clip, it don't matter. I just use the spade terminal so I don't bend the pins. And what you're gonna do when it's shorted together, don't run it, just turn key on, engine off, and your engine light will flash. So let's count here. 1, space, 1, 2. Let's start over. 1, space, 1, 2. So there's a code 12 in here. Well, if you look up code 12, I believe that's no distributor reference, which it's not going to have because, well, it's not running right now, obviously. So, of course, when you run it, it's just going to flash constantly with it plugged in. So key on, engine off. 1, space, 1, 2. So that's, and then if there's another code, it would do it. That's code 12. Pretty much an all clear. There's no other codes in here right now. Maybe we'll need to run it a little bit longer, which I'll probably do, and see if there's any other lean codes like they're talking about or what's going on. Now, I don't have anything to hook up to this to read live data. I don't even know if you can read live data on these things. I think Snap-on has an adapter that goes to it, and they said they tried, but wasn't reading. I don't even know if this thing puts out live data, to be honest with you. So what we're going to do is use my oscilloscope. We're going to check fuel injector waveforms, secondary, primary ignition, fuel pressure, and just kind of go down the road and see what we can find, and then go from there. Just for curiosity, I took the tranny and shorted those together, and the trans light on this Rodeo is up there. It's just a solid flash. I don't see any codes there. I'm not saying there isn't. Let's start and see what it does. Yeah, nothing, it goes away. So, key on, engine off with it shorted. Nothing there, then it went away. So, there it's coming back. It's just a solid flash. Now, if it was like, you know, a certain code would have a break in there, so that I would imagine means all clear. But we're not concerned with that anyways. We're concerned with the engine, why it's running like that. All right, I'm gonna let it warm up and run for a while. See, it's starting to stabilize there, the idle, just to see if any lean codes come back. It's kind of rudimentary diagnostics on these, so we'll let it run, and then we'll go from there. Let it warm up, see if we can find anything that's to give us a, you know, a road to go down. Well, it's surging pretty good again. We'll let it run, and then we'll start hooking our equipment up to see what we can find. Alrighty, I let it ran for a little bit more time, and it's still surging. Same code 1, 2, which is 12. No distributor reference. That's only because it's not running. Now what I got hooked up There's an extra computer they left in here, but the customer did. But I got it probed off one of the injector wires back to ground through my scope reading. And you can see there's our millisecond time that the injector's open right there. There's a magnetic field collapse, and then there is the injector pulse width open, how long it's open, and then right there's that little pintle hump. It means it's mechanically opening, and the jump in voltage is when the magnetic field collapses. That's why I'm using an attenuator. We're going up to, like, I don't know, 97, almost 100 volts. That's why I use an attenuator on my scope. So if you look here on this redrawn wiring diagram, I'm on number 1 and 2 that goes to the computer. I'm on PNC 11, so it looks like it fires both injectors, like it's a waste system. I'm gonna do that one. I'm gonna do D15, D16. Well, I don't know why there's 2 back to those injectors, and then C14 and see and compare them. But they got power coming in off this ECM relay, and then computer controls the ground. I just want to look at these waveforms real quick and compare them, see if we got a sticky injector, and then go from there. Oh, so sorry about the glare here, but here's your milliseconds long, how long the injector's open. If I rev it up, it'll change up and down. See, it's winding and closing. All right, so now I got it off, and I'm just measuring when it was at idle. I froze the picture. Let me measure from here. Actually, I gotta do this one from here to here. And the difference from position 1 to position 2 is 8.21 milliseconds. 8.21 milliseconds from here to here. Let me start it again. And I want to see when it's surging if that millisecond piece is surging, which I don't think it was. So engine's surging pretty good now. It's playing. It's idling pretty good there though. You can see it moving a little bit, but now it's not surging again. Kind of want it to surge again to troubleshoot this. Let me rev it up, see if that changes. It's weird, it's not surging. Let me freeze this, turn this off, check from here. .92 to right there, 11.18. Well, I'm off a little bit. 11.14. Difference is 7.22 milliseconds. You know, so we're roughly 7-8 milliseconds at idle. Let's just check the other ones, make sure we got the pintle humps, and then I'll go from there. Now I moved it to pin 14, C14, the blue with the white tracer. And we still got our pintle hump there, so let me freeze it. It's not surging now. I guess because it's warmed up. So let's just check this quick. See where we're at. 6.5 milliseconds, you know, roughly. They're going to all be a little different, obviously, depending where it's at, because it's surging or moving back and forth, adjusting. If I want it to surge again, I might have to do this when it's cold. Almost acts like it's got some kind of vacuum leak when it's cold, and when it warms up, it seals up. Maybe, I'm not sure. But you can see your pintle hump there, so let's do the other injectors next. This is cylinders. I did 1 and... Well, let me look at the schematic. Alright, first one I did was 1 and 2, and then we did 5 and 6. This should be 3 and 4. It's a misprint. That should be 3 and 4. So I'm 15 and 16. We're going to go next. Blue with the green, blue with the green. It's actually running pretty good now once it warmed up. Once it warmed up, it's a lot better, but Here's the other ones, 3 and 4. Hump there. Check our milliseconds. Yeah, 7.5, 7.8. Let's just check the wire next to it. I don't know why there's 2 wires going to it, but let's check it. All right, here's the other wire. Same injectors, 3 and 4. Got her hump. .19 milliseconds, but it's changing. You can see it moving because it's surging a little bit. So when it's surging, it's obviously adjusting gas there. Now it's stabled out. What the hell did I do? So now let's check. Don't worry about the shift on the screen. That was just me. 8.4 running. When it's surging, it does. I saw it surge there, felt it surge. You could hear it. It was moving this milliseconds open and closed. Yeah, 8.72 at idle. That's pretty good. But the other ones were getting less than that when it was running and surging. Almost like the injector pulse width is not wide enough or open long enough to give it feel. Why though? Is another input causing it? So we got to take a look at. I'm going to check for codes again, see if anything came up. So let's watch it here. 1, pause. 1, 2, that's a 12. See if it does another one. 1, pause. 1, 2. So no other code, just 12, which means no distributor, reference, or crank signal, whatever you want to call it, because it's not running. So no other lean codes in there right now. Hence it's surging right when it runs. What I can do next is, well, like I said, it was surging, it was moving the milliseconds. How long the injector's open back and forth, which is expected, but why is that? You know, is there a vacuum leak, a purge solenoid issue, a map sensor issue, intake leak? We don't know yet. You can't read live data on this, so I have to use the oscilloscope. Well, I don't have anything to read live data, but I have to use the scope to check it. So I guess we can check next is, you know, we can do in secondary ignition, primary and secondary ignition, do a snap throttle test and see if we have a lean condition with secondary ignition. We could do that. You know, maybe it's a fuel delivery issue. So more to come. All right, so now what we do or have is our secondary ignition probe hooked up. Right there, I got it on number 5 to ground. I have it inverted on here so I can read it right with your settings. Anyways, here's your dwell time building up right there. I guess your firing line in kilovolts and your burn time. And we're at like, you know, 8.7 thousand volts. So typically I do like a snap throttle test. If I do a snap throttle test and this other line comes way up to match this or close to it, means it's running lean. This thing runs so bad right now, I can't even get it to do a snap throttle very good. Let me go back. And this glare is so bad. Scope's kind of slow to rewind. Nice about this one though, it has the settings built into it. The MP408 scope I have, you can build the equation in there. This is where I'm snapping it at, somewhere in here. Let's get back a few frames and take a look. Oh my gosh, come on. I swear I saw it go up in here somewhere. Maybe I didn't. It went up a little there. Yeah, right there. That does not look good at all. It's like it's running lean or backfiring almost from that waveform there. That's crazy. So that's when I snap throttled it. So here's that idle. If I do it again, God, I wonder if I can do this a separate way. Let me set my settings up. Yeah, you can hear it backfiring. Do it right here once. Yeah, I try to snap throttle it. And it's running so crappy, it doesn't really rev up. Let me go back a few frames. I mean, I could do this on all the cylinders, but which I probably will. I just don't know if I'll show all that on camera. Right there's bad. That's not too bad, I guess, but I swear I saw it go way, way up. A lot of hash there. A lot of hash there. Right there. Yeah, 13,000. A lot of hash. Let me check some other cylinders, go from there. Well, another thing I noticed after it's running, look at that oil pressure. That seems pretty low, like this engine's maybe just worn out. You know, maybe it needs a compression test. Maybe that's the way we should have went first. Let's take a look at that as well, but let me do some other cylinder snap throttle checks. All right, so I'm on cylinder 3 now. Take a look at that one. It's a different coil. This thing's all over the place. Like, the kilovolts is way down there at 2.2 thousand, and then you'll see it go way up to like almost 10,000 if you back up far enough. Well, anyways, you can see it there, and it jumps up there. So this thing is all over the place. Let's do a snap throttle. Yeah, you can see it jump up on that side. Backfire, jump up on that side. Bigger than crap. What if this thing's got a mechanical issue is what's going on? You know, hence the low oil pressure. It seems pretty low. Yeah, look, I mean, that looks like crap there. The secondary ignition can tell you a lot. I mean, this thing is all messed up. Doesn't look too bad there. Looks like crap there. We got surging going on again right now. That looks like crap. Granted, I know we're revving up and down, but when you do the snap throttle, you can hear it backfiring through the intake. This thing stinks too. I got a pipe going outside, but man, it reeks. Pretty bad. Got some exhaust leaks. Give me a headache. There's a big KV line there. That looks like crap. I always saw it go way up on the side, but I got my time base so fast, I'm trying to, kind of hard to catch it. I need to slow it down. Yeah, look at that, going way up, typically lean. Yeah, we're surging. Oil pressure pretty far down, it seems to me. I gotta be careful and watch that. I don't hurt nothing else, so I don't hurt the engine. Not good. Yeah, look at that. That's not good at all, running lean there for snap throttle check. Anyways, yeah, look at that one. Let's pick one more cylinder. Let's go to another coil, and this one. Slow this down a little bit, maybe. Maybe a little more. Yeah, look at these other ones. Well, I'm only reading the one, but it's picking up interference, I suppose. Snap throttle check. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see all that. Alrighty, so those waveforms did not look good, especially with the snap throttle, and it's backfiring through the intake. I don't know if you could hear that in the video or not, but I'm doing another check here. 1 space 1 2. See if there's another code. 1 space 1 2. Same thing, a 12 code. It's because it's not running. So we got no lean codes right now. But it sure acts like it's running lean and running like crap, and the oil pressure's way low and surging and backfiring. Then what we can do now is, I mean, it has coils, 3 sets of coils. Looks like they already labeled it 1 and 4, 6 and 3, and 2 and 5 apparently. But we could do primary ignition with an amp clamp just to see that. You can find a fuse that feeds it. We could check fuel pressure. I think they already did, but I think it should be checking, maybe base mechanical timing, or timing, and compression. Actually, compression. I think the timing's on, obviously, but I would check compression. And I don't know if they checked that yet or not, if the customer did, but God, it just seems pretty weak and stuff. So what we'll do is we can maybe go down the route of primary ignition, at least eliminate that, which I don't think is an issue, but we'll check it. You can see how I kind of check it anyways. We could do a relative compression check with an amp clamp. We could do mechanical compression, fuel pressure, who knows, right? We'll just keep on going, I guess. We're looking at the back here. There is a lot of black soot in there, like it's running rich or something, but I'm not sure. I mean, unless that's from another vehicle, because you use these hoses on all kinds of vehicles. So maybe, just another thing we need to kind of put in our heads and make sure. So I'll go look up the wiring diagram for the primary ignition and see if we can find anything from there. All right, so now we're going to check the primary side with an amp clamp of the ignition. Let me show you what wire I'm hooked up to, or what fuse. All right, so here's our spark plugs, electronic ignition assembly, ignition control module. Anyways, fuse 9, 15 amp, feeds all of these, feeds these 3 coils. We're just gonna check all those, look at the primary ignition ramp, and go from there. All right, so where we're at, there's a 15 amp fuse out. I got put the fuse in my fuse loop with an amp clamp. We're gonna start it here. Anyways, here's all your coils firing, because we're checking them all, because we're checking the wire that feeds them all, or the power that feeds them all. Well, anyways, if I go to a 2 millisecond scale, put my trigger on, and I pause this, what I'm looking for is these oscillations in there. That means it's a good coil, it means it's building up energy. Primary ignition coil. Now, if If those oscillations weren't there, it'd be a bad coil. But if you look, we're looking at every one of these coils. They're all there. Right? So every one of them's there. So the primary side's good, which we kind of expected. The secondary side, we saw earlier in this video with the ignition probe, it was all over the place. We're just picking up cylinder, different pressures, whether it's weak compression, you know, the surging, all that stuff. We gotta look into that some more. If I go back to like a 20 millisecond division and you pause this, there is some differences on these peaks, but I'm more concerned with these ramps going up. So it's a 1 millisecond division there. Let's go to 2. Yeah, and then look at this. When I'm idling here, it's pretty low pressure. I rev it up and just hold it at 2,500 RPMs. Oil pressure goes way up. I wonder if this thing's got some mechanical issues going on. Again, oil pressure's way down, idling. Just hold it at 2,000 roughly, 2,500. 3,000. Oil pressure's much better. Let off, it goes way down. I know your oil pressure is going to go up when it's running, but that just seems really low. I mean, it looks like it's at, if you split the line 15, it looks like it's at 10 or 12. I don't know, it just seems pretty low to me. So now what we're going to do, since we got the amp clamp out, let's just check the fuel pump waveform, make sure that looks decent as well. So now the fuel pump waveform. Granted, we don't need to do all this, but I haven't made a video in a while, so I can kind of show you how we check some stuff out. Fuel pump goes to ground, comes up through the relay, Energize sucks it over. Well, this fuse, ECM fuse, powers the fuel pump relay. So if we were to scope on this fuse, we'd get all the other anomalies with it, with the powering up the PCM. But what we can do is pull this relay out and just go to 87 and was it 30 and 87? I have to look at the relay. And then we can put a wire in there. We just can't screw it up, it would mess the computer up. So you gotta make sure we jump the right ones, amp clamped that, look at our waveform. Alright, and now I'm going to the fuel pump fuse instead of the relay. You can still pick it up there. And if you look, here's your waveform. It actually looks pretty decent. What I'm looking for is all even humps. You know, usually there's 8 commutators on a motor. If there's a dead one, it would drop out. So if you like were to put right there and then you count over 8, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, and then you count another 8, it's a pattern, they're all the same. So right after this one, you know, you can look at the pattern. Well, if you take 60,000 milliseconds in a minute, divided the difference between here and here, you can figure your RPM. So right now we're at 8.56. 60,000 divided by 8.56 milliseconds is 7,009 RPM. So 7,000 RPMs this fuel pump is going. And we only got 4 amps, right? That's, I don't know, like my towel's 8 to 10 amps. But the waveform's good, so if you go to measure in here and go DC average, yeah, 4 amps average. Which ain't too bad. I don't know, it seems a little low, but what I'm looking for is the fuel pump waveform is decent. So I mean, there is a Schrader valve on the back of this thing. I believe they already checked the fuel pressure. They said the fuel pressure was good. I mean, we could check that. We could check compression, which we need to do. We should probably done that from the beginning. Or I think they already did check compression, honestly. You can do relative compression check. Check map stuff. I'm just kind of going through this to show you some of the stuff I, use to check out some cars. What if maybe there's an idle air control valve issue? I don't know. It looks kind of new, but I don't know how far I'm going to go into this video, if there'd be another part or this will just be the end of it. So I do got to get going here soon to get onto a Mini I'm working on. So I'm just going to kind of go over this a little bit, maybe do a couple other checks and If you guys have any comments or anything that would help me out, definitely put them in the comments and see what you guys think, you know, what the problem is. So I may do a couple more things, so more to come. Alrighty, I unplugged the ignition coil. I'm just going to do, I don't know if these support a clear flood crank, but I just want to listen to it, make sure it's not a dead hole. Sounds pretty even. So that's good. It sounds really even. So it's not a dead hole. I mean, you could check compression and it'd probably all be around the same. Or you could do a relative compression check with a bigger amp clamp I showed in other videos. But be kind of curious to see what the base compression is and the fuel pressure. Like I said, I'm probably not going to get much farther on this today. There may be another video. I'll upload this one for now because I do got to get going on a Mini I'm working on, which I absolutely hate working on those Mini Coopers. But yeah, so anyways, if you guys have anything, please comment on it and let me know what you think. Well, I know I said it was done, but I want to do a couple other checks. I was thinking it was running lean because of those secondary ignition waveforms, but then I'm looking at the tailpipe. It's got like black soot coming out. Like, I'm wondering if it's just running rich, and that's why it's backfiring as well. So what I want to look at now is, we don't have any live data, but I can read with the oscilloscope. There's a heated oxygen sensor. If I go off pin B3, the red and the blue tracer, I can scope it and see if it's running rich. So I have my Phil's probe hooked up into it to read that, but look at the black soot that's coming out of that thing. Let me start it again. It's like it's running rich. So running there. I don't know if you can see that, but there is black smoke coming out. Probably really hard to see in this light. I don't know if you can see that or not. Different angles maybe. Which, running rich. I don't know why, you know, that secondary ignition waveform kind of threw me off. You zoom in when I rev it up. Rev it up. Yeah, look at all that crap. So, I'm gonna look at the oscilloscope on the O2 sensor. But I wonder, maybe an injector stuck open. We can do an injector bleed down test. Hook up a fuel pressure gauge there, and then do an injector bleed down test, which I have a mechanical one I can do. I don't have a width. We could do that. Let's see what that's doing. Let's do the oscilloscope O2 sensor reading next. All right, so I'm gonna check now just to make sure the heated oxygen sensor. Like I said, we can look at B3. The signal going back, and they have one broken out to B2, the signal ground, but we'll go to B3. But I want to make sure this fuse is good. Fuse 1, 10 amp, which is 1994 only. It is, I just checked it, but I'll show you, and then I'm going to check from continuity from here to ground and make sure the heating element is good. Alright, so here's the fuse for it. It's not blowing, it's good. Fuse 1, 10 amp O2 sensor. So when you look at this, you have key on or engine running. This side of it will give you, you know, battery alternator voltage when it's running. This one, I'm just touching. I'm not spreading the pins open. I'm going to like a chassis ground or battery ground. This case, chassis ground. I got 6.3 ohms across that heating element, which is probably about right. You know, you can do Ohm's law and figure how many amps it's going to draw. So we got 14 volts in running. 6.4 ohms, so 2 amps, and it's under the 10 amp fuse, so that's good. So that means this heating element obviously is not broken. The fuse is good. I verified power coming down to it. Now we're just going to scope it when it's running and see. We should get a 0 to 1 sine wave. 0 meaning lean, 1 volt meaning rich. All right, fuse is back in for the O2 heater. The red one is the signal going in, the black one's the ground. I got probed out, got my scope hooked up. And if you go to 0 to 1 volt, now there's a lot of hash in here. Let me clean this hash up. There, I put a low pass filter in there. I gotta get better at using these filters. But anyways, there's a low pass filter. And I have my other ground to my scope lead. Battery brake lines were good. Or this ground here. But anywhere you can get a ground. Alright, I just went to engine ground. Actually, I'm going to try to extend it to battery ground just because I ain't getting a good waveform at all for the L2 sensor. Granted, it's probably not warmed up yet, but that heater element should be taking care of that. Well, I went to battery ground. And, yeah, you can see it running here, that smoke, black smoke coming off. Well, that probably answers your question, huh? Because if you look, 0 to 1 volt, 0 to 1, just charge this damn thing. Tell me my battery on that's getting to 25%. Well, I guess I've been using it a lot probably. Anyways, 0 to 1 volt, it should be in here, should go like a nice sine wave, right? But it's not. It's stuck like negative, like it's shorted to ground. So if this is shorted to ground, right now it says it's lean. So if it's lean, if the computer interprets it lean, what's it gonna do? It's gonna add a ton of fuel, which it's doing because it seems like it's got black soot. Now if I rev this up, you can see it changed state a little bit. Right there a little bit. But that should be up in here, and it's not. Look at all that kind of bluish smoke now. All that black soot, I can smell it. It smells strong, like feel. So, it looks like it's, I mean, the computer interprets it lean based on that O2 sensor. What if we take a test light and make it rich? Take that wire and go to battery positive and make it rich. And try that. Basically a response test to the O2 sensor and the PCM. O2, well, response test to the computer to make sure. What I'm talking about is this signal wire. So this is the ground side right here, right? But this signal that's going back in, if we take pin B3 and take a test light, go to battery negative, it's going to make it lean. If we make it battery positive, make it rich, and see if that improves. I've done that on other vehicles. I know it's, and there's protection in the computer. I know you're putting 12 volts in, but you're using a test light basically as a fuse in there, and the circuitry that protects itself. So let's do that next. So now we're taking that signal wire to battery positive through a test light. And no, it's not hurting the computer. And now we got, you know, your voltage there. If I pull it off, it goes down to where it was. It isn't really changing. Now this is the computer just controlling it. I don't know. It's weird that it's got some waveform, but it's going 0 to It's on the negative side, which is really weird. I mean, I can reverse my polarity, I suppose. Maybe that's what's confused me at. But if I plug it back into positive voltage, I got to change this to 20 volt scale because now it's up to there, to like 10 volts. But it's still smoking pretty good. Holding a half throttle and it doesn't do nothing. It just putts, backfires. Already get a good reading. I'm just going off. The red again is going back to the computer. The black is the ground. That's my oscilloscope leads. But you look, it's way down there on my 0 to 1 volt scale. If it focuses. But it does change. So let me reverse these so we're not on the negative side. Already I reversed the polarity. So now we got 0 to 1 volt scale. This thing would focus. So 0 to 1 volt is right there. We got our low pass filter on. So let's take this. I have to leave it there. So 0 to 1 volt. So right now, if I rev it up, there we got some cross counts. So I must have misspoke earlier when it was running lean, well, indicating lean, and it was giving a bunch of feel because I had my probes reversed. We're not using live data, we're going off the scope reading. But right now, with it set up the way it is, the only thing we got in the circuit is the oscilloscope reading. And right now it's constant 1 volt, which means it's rich. The O2 sensor is interpreting this. It's saying it's really rich. It's getting a ton of feel. So in my mind, if it's adding in a ton of feel, which it is, at idle, it's trying to compensate for a lean condition, and then when you rev it up, it's getting that black soot and smoke because it's so rich. But why is it doing that? That's the thing we got to do. So I wonder if we were to take our test light to battery negative, then it would add more feel. So we do have a rich condition here. Well, you can see it by the black soot. Is it compensating for a lean condition, or what is it doing, you know? If I rev it here, of course, when you get it heated up, the oxygen sensor is going to respond quicker. But at idle, you know, the heated oxygen sensor should take care of that. But we checked the fuse, maybe it's not getting heated up enough. You know, maybe the element, even though our resistance is good. So I'm going to come up with another idea here and we'll go from there. Alright, so if I leave the scope just hooked up, right now it says it's running rich. I rev it up, it'll change state. If I plug it in to the signal side, and this is going to battery ground out through a test light, negative, staying there. So it's making it lean now. I'll rev it up. It's got a little bit of cross counts. It almost seems like it runs better when I take it to ground. It's kind of hard to tell though. I'm gonna pull it out, go back to positive because that's what we're leaning. I think it's rich. I don't know, maybe kind of the same there. Anyways, that's a few more tests there. So it indicates in that last few screenshots that it is running rich. It's up at 1 volt, right? But why? Why is it running rich? We take it lean, it's a test light. It does respond through the live data, and we know, is the computer responding? We don't know that. Possibly we could take the wire out of the equation, depin it, and just go right to the signal on the wire in the computer and change it. We can't read the live data. We don't know what it's reading because we can't read the live data from the computer. We're just going off the oscilloscope. However, it does. I mean, look at that black soot. So obviously it's running rich, but why? We got to figure that out. Is there an injector leaking? Like we said, it'd be cool to hook up a field pressure gauge, do an injector bleed down test, and do that. I don't know if I'm gonna do that in this video. Like I said, I got to get and work on that Mini. So again, if you guys have anything, please comment on it, see what you think, and then we'll go from there.